Morning, guys. Here in central Illinois, spring is just around the corner, and I probably won't be spending as much time working on the electric trains as I'll spend working outside. This is kind of what I've been doing right now. I've been burning the timber around me and trying not to burn down the house. And out there is my pond slash swamp filled with lions and tigers and snakes. Oh my, a lot of snakes. But this is where I'm spending a little bit of my time, but I'll show you what I'm doing up here in the train heaven. We're working on making a Interurban car, powered car. And what I'm using is an Ives passenger car, standard gauge. I happen to have a 184 that I'm working on. If you know anything about Interurbans, you have to admit, when you look at the front of the Ives car, it looks very much like the Interurbans. So what I'm going to do is, I've already stripped this thing. I have to soak it in some rust remover. There's rust, as you can see. Anywhere that they soldered, there is rust. So I've got this completely torn apart, and I've decided that I'm going to put a brass door in the ends. Now, I don't know how well I'll be able to do this. Being a one-handed cameraman does not always work very well. And this car has been totally disassembled. The frame is loose because I got to decide how I want to install a motor. But what I did was get everything in focus. Started out with just a flat piece of stock that was measured from the inside to the inside on that. And it just so happens that these windows are 3/8 of an inch. Now, initially, I used a hole punch, but my biggest die on the hole punch was not as big as these windows. It was slightly smaller, but I wanted them to be all the same. So I drill a hole in a proper size piece of metal. This is the one that I used the hole punch for. Then I cut it. I've got tin snips, and I cut it to fit the back side, and then you can continue to file it until you've got an absolutely perfect fit. There you go. And if I can turn it upside down, it sits right in that recession in there. And I found out something. Better to make it, better to make the bottom here longer, because you're filing the top and it continually moves it up. Well, if you don't have a long enough bottom, rather to be too long, because then you can trim it to fit. Because I literally want it to fit at the very bottom of the floor. That would be the proper way of doing it. So once I get that in there, I'll do it on both ends, and then I'll decide if I want to put headlights at the very bottom off to the sides, or might even put it right through the bottom of the door right there. Anything is possible in the electric train world. I'll use this motor, or I'll fabricate another motor, because it will hang. You can see where the trucks were. I will cut that out. This is a frame that allows this motor to hang and pivot, and this frame will be bolted to that floor, or I might even fabricate a whole brand new floor and leave the bottom open so that it make it easier to work on. I'm going to use this McCoy trolley pole. Somebody bent it, but I think I can take it and put a piece of flat stock here where it steps down, and run the flat stock to there, and then put it in a a C-clamp and straighten it. It's a minor bend, but I ain't going to leave it that way. And then on the roof, because this is the roof that we'll be using, I will fabricate this electric catwalk or whatever it is they call it. And that will run the full length of the roof. And I think I'm going to, because these are hinged, and I think what I'm going to do is, since I have two supports, I get everything centered up, get the roof centered up. I'm going to solder a brass nut on here, drill through, and then take one of these, and I'm not using this car, this is a good one, taking one of these and drilling a hole through it so that I can bolt the roof onto the top of the car. As you can see, these are hinges. It allows it to pivot. It's got two of them on this thing. But that's not going to be an effective way to keep the roof on, so I'm going to modify that just a little bit. But this is what I'm working on. It's a lot more complicated than I thought, because every time you go and you re-engineer something that's been engineered, it don't always work out the way you'd want it to. I'll be putting a cow catcher probably on the front. Might use that. These are awesome. I don't know who made them, but they're stamped brass, solid brass, not brass plate. So I could hook that up underneath there and polish the ever-living hell out of it, and it'd look pretty good with that on there. But this is the project I'm coming to. I'll have to make a set of side plates, frames to cover the wheels. And here again, I don't know if I'm going to use these or I'm going to go ahead and mount my axle collets on the back of these Flyer template wheels, because that gives it a lower silhouette. I don't have to worry about this flange coming up against past the base plate on this Alco motor, which is what I'm going to use. I got a whole bunch of Alco motors. I may not use this one, but I've got others that I'll throw in the mix, and it'll be just a single motor deal with a trailing truck behind it. So there we are. Provided we don't have any tornadoes or a great big morel mushroom crop, which is what I'll be doing here pretty soon, looking for morel mushrooms. I may get this done in my lifetime. Stand by. Toodaloo.